Hello, and thank you for joining me, Jonty Gray, on the first Bridport Arts Centre's online programme, A Conversation With. I'm pleased to welcome our first guest, Nick Briggs, also known as the voice of the Daleks. Nick, thank you for joining me today.
But you're very welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So I suppose, first of all, people might wonder why you're our first guest on here. And I know we've worked together before, but you're obviously based in Bridport,
Yes.
which is a wonderful place. What sort of makes Bridport special to you and the area?
Oh, well, I just love it. I was brought up in Hampshire in the New Forest, and then I went to college in London, went to drama school. And then, as often happens when people go to a city to study, they end up just sort of staying there by default, really. And I was never particularly a huge fan of London. Then I suddenly realized I'd spent over half my life living in London. And I thought, oh. So I devised a plan with my wife, who we recently got together. And this was back in 2008 or 2009, something like that, that, it would be nice to move south and to the coast. And I'd always really liked what's it called? It's just over. It's I can't remember it. It's the next along the coast. Really famous.
Abbotsbury.
No, really, really famous. I'm just having a senior moment and forgetting a really obvious name.
Burton Bradstock.
Other way.
Chiddock, Charmouth.
Keep going.
Seaton.
Famous. It's famous.
Oh,
next one.
Lyme Regis.
Lyme Regis. How could I forget the name Lyme Regis? It's really obvious. I'm so sorry. Anyway, yeah. So we looked at Lyme Regis, which of course was far too expensive. And I said, well, that's it. That's my dream gone. And my wife said, hold on. I think there's some other great places. And we looked around and discovered that we preferred Bridport. No offense to Lyme Regis, especially since I forgot the name. So we looked around and we kind of fell in love with the place because it's got its nice beautiful aspects, countrified and also West Bay is beautiful, but also it's a functioning town, isn't it? It's a proper market town. There are plenty of shops, there's industry here, so it's kind of, I think, a mistake of town people, as it were, is that they think, oh, I've got to get away from the city. And then they move to the middle of nowhere and then they quietly go insane and get very, very bored. And I knew, that the best thing to do was to come and live right in the middle of the town. I mean, we've moved recently to another part of Bridport, but we were originally in South Street, the same street as you there at the Arts Centre. So we were right in the middle of it. And that was really because of cost. It was cheaper to do that. But it was one of the best decisions I didn't actually consciously make. Living in the centre of a town in a rural area is a lovely experience because it's not like living in the middle of a city. It's not that busy and everything kind of stops around about 5 o'clock. But it's been lovely. And every time I came back from working in London, which of course I don't do at the moment during the pandemic, but I used to go away to London quite a lot, I got that real tingle and warmth of feeling, oh, Bridport, like when you arrive at a holiday destination. Yeah, I was getting that every week, every other week. So I can't recommend Bridport highly enough.
I must say, it's from working away and then coming back, it is that feeling of friendliness, and as you're driving in through the countryside, it's very relaxing.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? As you come over and you can see across the sea and the cliffs. And also the fact that, most local people will just say good morning or good afternoon or hello to you as you walk past them. And that's a beautiful thing. And you occasionally, going back to London, find yourself doing that to people in London and they look at you like you're about to pull a knife on them.
Yes. I suppose coming on to sort of your sort of career and what you're doing. I mean, like I said, most people would go, ooh, Nick Briggs, look you up, and it would come up with Doctor Who and the Daleks and that sort of thing. So what's it like being part of that world of the Doctor Who world?
Well, it's particularly thrilling for me because I've always been a Doctor Who fan, right from, I can't remember. Doctor Who did start after I was born, but I was so young. I was born in 1961. Doctor Who started in 1963. So I certainly didn't watch the first few episodes or the first couple of years because I was too young, or even if I did, I wouldn't remember that now. But it's been something that's always been with me throughout my life. If you were to encounter anyone who's known me at any point in my life, like at school or college or some job or something, you say Nick Briggs, they go, "Oh, the Doctor Who fan." Yeah. That everyone knew that about me. I was the sad Doctor Who fan. So to be involved in it when it came back in 2005 and to get the job of the voice of the Daleks was just a dream come true. It's not the sort of thing you can have as an ambition. You can't set out in life to be the voice of the Daleks because it's a kind of odd little sideline, isn't it? You're more likely to say, "Oh, I want to play the Doctor," or something like that, or "I want to write it," or "I want to produce it." But and also because of my enthusiasm for Doctor Who, I got involved with a lot of people doing Doctor Who audio plays for fun shortly after I left drama school. And really, because I wasn't, I was having an unlucky time. Sorry, I'm looking at it's as the guest star has arrived. Next door's cat. What are you going to do, Guinness? This is where something falls over and there's a terrible crash. Would you like to get down? Why am I talking to a cat like it's going to take any notice of me? This could be an entertaining part of the interview. Would you like to come over here? Come
on. It's when they do walk across the keyboard or here press a button that is the...
That worked. Yes, I've managed to pull my earphones out as well. Oh, there we are. Thank you. Yeah, I got involved doing these Doctor Who things for fun with a bunch of fans. And we said to ourselves, wouldn't it be great if one day we could do this for real? Cut to quite a few years later, and a bunch of us with a company called Big Finish, run by my good friend and colleague, Jason Haig-Ellery, got a license from the BBC to do Doctor Who audio drama, with the proper doctors and everything. So that's my day job. I'm now the creative director of that company, an executive producer, and I do lots of writing and directing. But it was through Russell T Davies, who brought Doctor Who back in 2005, through him being a fan of Doctor Who and listening to our audio drama, that he heard me doing the Dalek voice. So he thought, that guy, not only can he do the voice, he'd also read some sad article I'd written in Doctor Who magazine all about how to do the voice technically, with a thing called a ring modulator and the microphones and all this kind of stuff. And he thought, well, not only can he do it, he knows technically how to produce it. So I was a one-stop solution to the problem, really.
I was going to say, from looking at the other stuff that you're involved in, so you sort of mentioned the podcasts and all the stuff for Big Finish, and it's that repertoire when you start looking at what actually you've done. Do you enjoy it all just as much, or is there sort of key characters or parts that you really like and enjoy more?
Well, one of the luxuries of having a job that involves so many different things is that they're all antidotes to each other, because it doesn't matter how wonderful you find a job, variety is the spice of life. So if I was the voice of the Daleks all the time, like every morning I had to come into my shed here and shout "exterminate" all day, even though I love doing that, I think that would be a bit tiresome and, of course, mad. I mean, what kind of job would that be? Likewise with writing and directing or sound design and doing music or recording a podcast, I enjoy them all, but you wouldn't want to be doing it 9 to 5 every day. So there's variety. I have the luxury of looking at my to-do list every day, and I can work out whether I'm going to be editing a script, writing a script, scheduling a directing session remotely. We do all our recording remotely at the moment because of the pandemic. Or doing some music on a computer just there that the cat keeps walking past. I'm doing, I'm using Pro Tools and there are keyboards behind you, behind the screen there, and I'm doing music. So I have a variety of things to do. So that's, it can become quite, stressful because there's so much to do. It's like a mountain of stuff, but it's not a mountain of all the same stuff. So I can pick and choose what I do. If my brain's burnt out doing one kind of thing, I can use a different bit of my brain to do another kind of thing, really. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that it's having that variation of different things that you can move from to, and, so it's not that repetitive and the same.
Yeah, and if the weather's decent, which unfortunately it isn't today, but it was, it was cold but bright yesterday, I can go for a walk around the town for my exercise. I'm not getting enough exercise, of course, but I put my welly boots on and splash around in the puddles. So if you see a madman running around Bridport jumping in puddles, that'll be me.
Now, I must say, it's these devices, so Apple Watches, that keep telling you to stand up and do more exercise, and does remind you to. Tells you you're being too lazy on my part.
I just know I'm being lazy. I don't need a device to tell me that.
Another sort of thing that from speaking to sort of people and saying, I was going to interview you, some people said, what sort of goes into creating the voices? So if you suddenly went, I've got a new character or a new alien that we're doing a voice for, what sort of goes through your mind? Do you get guidance, or how does that sort of work?
Well, I mean, I'll give you one example. A few years after I'd started doing the Dalek voice for the TV show, my then agent, sadly long gone now, I've got another one, don't worry, I'm not in professional distress, phoned me. He said, they want you to go, this was like Friday evening, he said, they want you to go to the set in Cardiff on Monday morning, and do the voice of a Doctor Who monster. And I said, which Doctor Who monster? He said, it's the Judoon captain. And when you hear that phrase for the first time, you think, the what? Sorry? And he said, it says here Judoon captain. All right, thank you. And I was like, hold on, what's a Judoon captain? He said, I don't know, you're the blooming Doctor Who fan, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I think this is a new thing. And he said, well, I've no idea. They just want you to go to the set and do it. And they'll have a script waiting for you when you get there. I said, oh, right, okay. Yes, the Artful Dodger was my agent, obviously, from this voice. So I just thought, well, I'll just go to the top, really. So I phoned David Tennant because I knew him before Doctor Who, and he did Doctor Who audio plays for us. And I said, hello, I'm going to be working with you on Monday. And he said, oh, are you? What are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing the voice of the Judoon captain. And he said, oh, that's a relief. He said, yeah, everything seemed to die at the read through when someone was just reading in, and it'd be great to have you there doing a voice. I said, can I just ask you, what is a Judoon captain? He said, oh, don't you know? I said, no. He said, oh, well, he said, it's a sort of, it's a rhinoceros in like an astronaut suit is basically it. And he said, they're very sort of, they're law enforcers. So they're very gruff and aggressive. I said, oh, okay, fine. So I had a little bit of background. I thought, God, it looks like a rhinoceros. So I'm already thinking it's probably got a sort of snorty kind of weird voice. But then when I got to the sets, I met the director, Charlie Palmer, the late Geoffrey Palmer's son, funnily enough. And he said, well, what are you going to do for the voice? I said, well, can I go and look at this thing? And he said, oh, yeah, the guy, Paul Casey, who did all the monsters in those days, all the hero monsters, the main ones, he's just having the mask fitted on him. So I went to see poor old Paul having this thing forced onto his head. And I was looking at it, and while I was looking at it, I was kind of sort of going, making noises that would sort of fit with it. And then I went back to the director. I said, I'm thinking sort of, and the lines, the first lines was something like, "Ko fo mo bo ho." They just had this weird language. I thought that they were actually calling out each other's names to start with, but apparently it's just them talking. And so I did that to him, and the director, Charlie, just went, yeah. I went, all right, well, I'll do something else. And he went, no, it's great. It's hilarious. I went, okay. I said, I've gone for the obvious thing. They're big and gruff. So I've done a big gruff voice. I said, I could do a little squeaky voice, and that might be quite, anyway. No, let's stick with the gruff thing. And so then every time there was a Judoon scene, I was just to the side of the camera, and the mouth was operated with animatronics. So the animatronic operator would follow what I was saying and make the mouth move in time to that. So it's fun to do. But yeah, so really you get a sense of the character, and you look at what it looks like, and you just get a feeling of what it should be, and then out comes the voice.
I was going to say, it must be quite, again, fun when you can look at that, but I can imagine without the script or knowing what they look like from the starting point, must be who? What do you
Well, exactly. I felt like the way my agent had said it, it's like I should have known already. It's like someone saying, you're playing Admiral Nelson. Okay, fine. Yeah. You're playing a Judoon captain. Sorry? What?
And I suppose from my point of view is I do watch Doctor Who, and I have since, very young age of, I can remember hiding behind the sofa when the
Yeah, me
Daleks came
too.
on.
Yeah.
And things have changed. I don't hide anymore, but obviously when they've evolved and there's more Daleks and things. How do you, again, with them, they have all got slightly different voices. Is there one that sort of is your favorite, or
Well, no. The brilliant thing is that there's always a challenge, and I just winced there because the cat just clawed my knee, just in case you thought something was going wrong. There's always a challenge in every script. They've written a new kind of Dalek, a Dalek where something weird is happening. So there's always a bit of variety. I'm really happy doing the, your bog standard way, oh, by exterminate and all that kind of stuff. I could do that, for a long time. But it's great to have an emperor with a big boomy voice, or a Dalek Supreme, or Dalek Khan, which was that strange one where the Dalek casing was sort of busted open and all its tendrils and things are hanging out. It was sort of funny little voice. So just so I can't say I've got a favorite one to do, but I just enjoy the challenge of, and the latest special that was on at on New Year's Day. There were those new security drone Daleks as well. And also, doing the voice of the Dalek that's on people's backs. Have you seen that? Where, and what I have to do is post sync my voice with their voice. So you hear their voice and a Dalek voice at the same time. And that's quite a nice challenge, because I'm normally, if I do mostly with Daleks, I do it on the set at the time, because my voice, is heard on a speaker by the other actors, and it also triggers the flashing lights on the Daleks, so you know which one's speaking. And David Tennant always used to say the brilliant thing about the Daleks is when you're on set with them, they are a complete creation. So much of the time they were looking, on Doctor Who, they're looking at green screen and silver balls being moved around to represent things. But with the Daleks, they turn up, their lights flash, and they talk. It's quite a fun thing to do. But quite often, for technical reasons or often plot reasons, the Daleks, I have to do a bit of dubbing for them later, because the Daleks are brilliant for fixing plot holes that they notice during the editing, because they state the obvious, or if there's a shot, it's not quite clear what's happening. You can have a Dalek say, so-and-so is happening now, oh dear, and they will clarify everything for you. But normally, when I do that, I'm just syncing up to flashing lights, and syncing up to lips moving is a whole different thing. And it's fun. It's fun to do, though. What I've found is that I've got a sort of good audio memory. So if I hear something, if someone says, hello, come and have a cup of tea, I can just repeat that immediately in the same intonation. And all you have to do is push back the sound over the original and it will fit. So that's mostly we use it. I think we've named the technique listen and repeat, whereas a lot of people like to see the lips moving to match it as they're talking. That just confuses me. I like to hear it and then match it afterwards. So that's my adventure in ADR.
It's exciting adding that almost you're doing the personality of those Daleks, because there is nothing else. So it's your voice that's adding to that.
Well, I think so. I mean, I know the guys in them, particularly Barnaby Edwards and Nicholas Pegg, who are great friends of mine of old, and they really do work hard in those Daleks. I mean, it's a dreadful job. I did have a go in one once on a kids program called Totally Doctor Who, where we were teaching kids about Daleks and how to become the perfect Dalek. And so I was teaching them about the voice, and Barnaby was teaching them about how to do the operating, and in one of the filming breaks, I said, can I get inside one of those things? And it's like, being stuck inside a wardrobe you can't get out of and having to shuffle it along with your feet. It's a nightmare job. And they do it brilliantly, and they get all the nice little movements in and everything. But it has to be said, not to blow my own Dalek ring modulated trumpet too much, it is the voice that gives it a personality. And the example I always think of for that is that after we did the first Dalek story with Christopher Eccleston, there was a BBC Proms at the Albert Hall, and a segment of it was about children and family TV themes. And so they had a Doctor Who segment, and what they decided for the Doctor Who segment, and we ended up doing it for several years running after that, or every other year or something, they'd have the orchestra playing the Doctor Who theme, And in the sort of, pit area of the Albert Hall, the I can't think of the word, but anyway, it's not Lyme Regis, but in that big circular bit down, they'd had loads of kids sitting around all cross-legged on the floor. And in the middle of it, a Dalek would come up from the basement and sort of move around, you see, during the Doctor Who theme. And I said, while we were doing the rehearsal, I said, do you want me to do a few exterminates? Because we had some scripted stuff later with the conductor and all that. A few exterminates during this, and whoever was running it was affronted. They said, this is a concert. We're listening to the music. You can't. And I said, oh, sorry, it was just a suggestion. Anyway, what happened on the first performance was that the Dalek started moving around, and to start with, the kids were sort of thrilled. Oh, it starts moving around. And then when it's moving around and not saying anything, it starts to look a bit sort of lost and kind of cute, and kind of just sort of looking around and move, And so the kids just all started to walk up to it, and they eventually all clung on to it. And so Paul Barnaby's inside trying to move this thing, and he's got hundreds of kids like in a daisy chain all hanging off it, and he can't move at all. So after that performance, the person who'd been so affronted at the suggestion I said exterminate during the playing of the music, they said, is it possible that you could scream exterminate a few times if the Dalek gets stuck? I said, absolutely. So it was a wonderful thing to do. The next performance, as the Dalek became, its movement became completely clogged up by children, I just exterminate, and they all just ran for the hills, screaming, and it had the desired effect, really. But that was a really interesting moment, actually, because I was aware of what they called Dalek mania in the 60s, when the Daleks really took off, and the reason Doctor Who survived beyond its initial run of several weeks, because everyone got so excited about the weirdness and the strangeness and the scariness of the Daleks. And I thought, when Doctor Who came back, I thought that can't happen again. The world, kids aren't so naive anymore. But I remember for the first performance of that prom, as I was heading towards Albert Hall, up those sort of famous steps that feature in many films, for example, the Ipcress File, one of my favorite films. As I was heading towards the building, I noticed that there was movement, and there were kids lined all the way around the circular building of the Albert Hall, all queuing up to go in. And I could hear all this sort of little high-pitched chatter from the kids. And as I got closer, I could hear them all go, exterminate, exterminate. And I thought, my goodness, it's happened again. They're all saying exterminate. They're all pretending to be Daleks and things. It was sort of lovely. It brought me back to my childhood and made me realize, I thought, this is really going to be a big success again.
I think, seeing people, knowing how big it was, and then sort of settled away and then came back. And I can remember the very first films, with the Daleks and all in black and white, which, again, I can remember watching with my sort of dad and things. And then when they came back, it was that excitement of going, oh, they're here, this is the new version almost as well.
Yeah, well, the Daleks are an amazing, it's like, they are a bizarre sort of Heath Robinson collection of kitchen utensils and household pieces, aren't they? Crossed with a tank, that's going to kill you. But they don't, there's something about them that, a lot of people say to me, oh, it's scary and I can't look at them. But most people just find them fascinating and think they're a really funky, cool design, But they're like putting a sheet over your head and saying, I'm a ghostie. Woo! No one believes that's a ghost, but there's something, it's like a symbol that, and it's a special pact between you and the audience that says, hello, cat, that says, this is a scary thing. And that's what the Daleks do perfectly. The combination of that beautiful design and the voice says to the audience, this is the bad guy. And everyone gets it,
No. I suppose something else, looking at some of like your work and your interviews and some of the stuff you've done, for Big Finish and all of that.
Yes.
You obviously interviewed lots of the past Doctor Who's, and characters. Is there anyone, first of all, that you go, I really wish I could have interviewed them and I haven't? Or
well, yeah, my favorite Doctor Who is Patrick Troughton, but and I didn't get the chance to meet him or interview him. He had died before I got involved in this world. That said, I did attend a Longleat convention for Doctor Who, which was a big public celebration of Doctor Who back in, I think, 1983, that the BBC did at Longleat House, near Warminster in Wiltshire, as they used to announce at the end of every Doctor Who episode back in those days. And Patrick Troughton did a panel, and I did stand up and ask a really stupid question, which for years I told the story of the stupid question I asked and how I asked it. And you kind of think that you might be embellishing upon the memory, but then it turned out someone videoed it. And even though you can't see me, you can hear me asking it. And everything I said about it was true, where Patrick Troughton was having a lot of trouble hearing the questions from the floor because people were sort of muttering into the microphone. And then when they brought the microphone to me, I was at drama school at the time. I said, yes, I'd like to ask a question. And he went, I can hear. Yeah. I said, yes, I'm at drama school. What an idiot. And I asked him some stupid question about how wide his trousers were when he was playing Doctor Who, because when he started playing the role, he had big baggy trousers. And by the time he finished, they were quite drain pipey. And that one of the directors used to tell a story that, that Patrick Troughton wanted baggy trousers and the director thought they were stupid. He said, so every episode they snuck them in by half an inch. And, I wanted to know whether he was aware of that deception that had been. And he did say, yes, that director does like to say that, doesn't he? But it was a bizarre question. I had a chance to speak to Patrick Troughton and I asked him about his trousers.
But I suppose that's what a memory to, remember and go,
yeah,
that's the point and the story that comes with it. So,
yeah, well, I've since met and worked with his sons, David and Michael, and they're both lovely people and I've got on with them really well and hope to work with them again in the future. Yeah.
This is one where, you've probably been asked, but what is there any sci-fi thing out there or any drama or show that you really go, I really wish I could work on that, or actually I wish I could just do those characters, or
Well, for Big Finish, we get the opportunity to do all sorts of things. I mean, most recently, I've done The Prisoner. We've done that. These things you can find at bigfinish.com, by the way, and Space 1999, which is, an old Jerry Anderson live action series about the moon being blasted out of orbit with a moon base on it. And it's kind of like Star Trek, but on a moon base. But I suppose mentioning Star Trek there, I've always, I'm not as much a fan of Star Trek as I am of Doctor Who, but I'm a pretty dedicated Star Trek fan. I've watched all the Star Trek there is, and I regularly rewatch the original series with Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock and what have you. And when I was a teenager, I used to read the Star Trek books. So I wouldn't love to play any of the characters in Star Trek. I don't think I'm right for any of them, but although it'd be nice to be a new character in Star Trek, wouldn't it? But I would love Big Finish to get a license to do any kind of Star Trek. If there's anyone watching this connected to the Star Trek world, we're up for it. We would absolutely, anything you like, any brand of Star Trek for Big Finish. We have done a couple of talking books of Star Trek, but we would love to do some full cast audio drama. Yeah. In fact, when we do interviews for people in the publicity department of Big Finish, the fictional scenario we give them to see if they can work out promotional strategies is to say that we're doing Star Trek. And then at the interview, they always say, are you actually doing Star Trek? We go, no, we're not. It's just just a way of finding if people can come up with interesting ideas, but it's just a little bit of wish fulfillment on our part. So yeah, that's Star Trek, definitely.
We'll keep fingers crossed, and hopefully, the next film that's coming out or series. There always seems to be a new one. I think Netflix, isn't it, that have just done the latest one? And again,
Star Trek Discovery. Yes, yeah.
No, I must say I watch those as well, and I think it's that whole thing of bringing it back, and some of the stuff you were just on about, the older programs that have come back as dramas or. That's the exciting thing, and I think bringing stuff back to the modern day is
sort of reinventing them, relocating the essence of them, and then and bringing and creating something sort of new but still very familiar that gives people who've never seen it before can still enjoy it, but those who know all the old stuff get an extra buzz out of it.
Yeah, those subtle little references back to the old things, but from the new. What's sort of next for you? What have you got coming out? I mean, obviously with COVID, like you said, everything is very much working from home, and like I am at the moment, rather than being in a theatre doing techie stuff, is sat at home doing things on the computer. But yeah, what's sort of happening with you?
Oh, just too many things to even remember. But I mean, at the moment, I'm working on the music for a third Doctor story. That's John Pertwee was the third Doctor, and we have an actor who does a fantastic interpretation of that part. It sounds quite like John Pertwee, but it's a sort of new thing. We're doing that, and also the daughter of Elizabeth Sladen, who played Sarah Jane Smith in Doctor Who. She's doing the voice of her late mother, which she does a brilliant job of. So I'm working on that, doing the music. I directed it as well. I got the second series of my science fiction original story I wrote, The Human Frontier, which was a big 4-hour audio drama, very futuristic, weird thing about people traveling to another planet, two different branches of humanity fighting with each other. Go to bigfinish.com and type in The Human Frontier, but it's basically people who traveled there slowly by in a sleeper ship, in cryogenic suspension on the way there, and people who went there by hyperdrive, who got there quicker. So the people who set off earlier arrive after the people who set off later, and they're two different branches of humanity separated by hundreds of years, and they have completely different value systems. And some of them have turned into cats, apparently. No. So there's that. I'm also working on a Space 1999 script. There's also another thing I can't tell you about, which is an old ITV kids program that we've just recently got the license to do as audio drama. So I'll be working on that. I have, of course, been working on the Ninth Doctor Adventures. That's Christopher Eccleston, who we've recently signed to be a Doctor Who again for Big Finish. And I've written and directed 3 of those, and I'm just going through all the edit. Do you see how I could go on for about half an hour saying all the things I'm doing? They're all on my to-do list. There's loads of other things. It's a lovely moment when you can mark something as done on your to-do list, isn't it?
Yeah, and it must feel great once it's online and it's available for people to listen to, and you get that sort of feedback and the buzz from it as well.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely.
I suppose I'd be rude not to ask. Are you able to do us some voices, or Daleks?
Well, I haven't got anything connected up, so unfortunately, I can't oblige at the moment. Sorry.
That's all right. If I didn't ask, people would go, "Why didn't you ask?
Why didn't you ask?" And go, "Exterminate!" That's sort of what it sounds like without the effect. Yeah, but you have to do some serious hectoring, as David Tennant said. You really have to put your heart and soul into it to do the voice. Yeah. That would take quite a bit of replugging on the technical side here to sort that out.
And I suppose coming back to sort of Bridport, I mean, obviously you're here, and Chris Chibnall is here. So obviously, is it nice having someone obviously as well working on Doctor Who that is so close and sort of in the local area?
Well, it's quite fun actually. When we speak to each other on the phone, he says, "Hello, neighbour," and I say, "Hold on, just put the phone down and shout. I can probably hear you." But I don't think we live quite that close. The cat is invading every space here. And of course, occasionally we bump into each other in the street, which was fun, especially in lockdown. He was posting a letter. I was coming back from having a sandwich recently, and we had a socially distanced chat. This was before the very stringent measures. And and we've been for lunch occasionally, or gone round for tea and what are they? Bakewell tarts. Yeah, from the local bakery. I highly recommend those. It's right near. We shouldn't advertise, should we? But it's right near the Arts Centre, the bakery.
Oh yes, I do know the one. I nip there many times for lunch, and they are very, very good salads and sandwiches. There we are.
Very nice people. Yes, and also they after having been here for goodness knows how many years, it suddenly dawned on them that I was the guy in Doctor Who. And so they're always going, asking me about Doctor Who things.
Again, I must say that is the lovely thing about Bridport. And yeah, I mean, my fiance, when we first got together and we were walking around town, it's that whole thing of, does everyone in Bridport know you? Because they all say hello, John. And I'm like, you just got to work here and live here for a few years, and that's how it works.
It's lovely. It's lovely. It gives you a feeling of belonging, I think.
Brilliant. Well, I must say thank you so much. I mean, unless there's anything, you sort of as you want to say, or anything you sort of want to promote from your side. Obviously, we sort of told everyone where to go and have a look. But
but absolutely. I mean, I would encourage people to go to bigfinish.com and have a look at what we do there, because it's and there's a weekly podcast, the Big Finish podcast, that you can get on all your podcast usual suppliers, which will tell you what's out just now, what are the latest things, and they're behind the scenes interviews. There's another podcast I do every week called the Benji and Nick Show. I'm the Nick, and Benji lives in Eastbourne, and we do it over Zoom, record separately, edit it together. And what we do is we talk about vintage television, and we nominate a program every week, and we have a discussion about it. And we involve our friend Shelley Dean from, if I could get her name right, Shelley Dean from America. And she joins us, and she has a uniquely US perspective on it. She's watching a lot of these really old British programs and going, what the hell is this? This week, we're going to be watching some old American comedy. So Benji and I will be the ones going, what the hell is this? But anyway, yeah, it's a fun thing. And we have a nice community of people who listen. And we're also on Patreon, if you've heard of that, where, if you go to Patreon, patreon.com and type in the Benji and Nick Show, you can subscribe to us at various levels. You could just for £1 or a little bit more, and you get lots of extra material. You get extra commentary. We do commentaries that you can sync up and listen to while you're watching your favorite vintage TV programs. And we do recipes as well, TV dinners. We tell you the things we like to eat and make while we're watching television. So there's also a silly drama called Inside the Telly, where Benji and I get sucked inside a television and have to survive various weird television characters. The cat is now attacking the computer. Yeah, so lots going on, and that's where you can find it. And Benji and Nick Show, like the Big Finish podcast, on all your podcast apps, Apple Podcasts, it's and on YouTube and as well, in fact. So there you go.
Fantastic. Well, I must say thank you so much for coming and being our first sort of guest on our new world of online entertainment. Oh, and the cat is...
Yeah, that is the cat actually knocking my screen. Look at her. What is the matter with you?
And a famous cat now.
Yes, it's been a great pleasure.
But thank you very much. And like for everyone that's watching, obviously we're going to be putting more of these online. So do keep a look on our website, and we'll be back with more soon. So thank you very much.
I look forward to seeing them.